Hi, welcome to Office Hours with Dr. Peace. And my guest today is Sophia Joffe, a former student of mine from just this most recent semester of teaching substance use and society. I'm so glad to have you here today, Sophia. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
You already know, Sophia, from being in my class, that the whole idea of this podcast, the brainstorm behind it was that I talked to students. I've been talking to students for over 20 years now in both traditional classroom environments and online. And one thing I've noticed is you all really rock, and you're so good and you're so smart and you're so young and so passionate about this field that I love, social work. And so even though I know a little bit about your interests, wherever you want to go today, whatever you want to talk about, I can dig it. It's my passion to allow students to have a place to talk. I tell people that I interview all the time, I'm not sure if anybody listens or watches, but you know what? I don't care because I'm really having a blast. I hope that people will listen because I think it's important that especially professionals and educators hear what students are really feeling and talking about, especially graduate level students are most of the people that I interview. Where do you want to go?
Oh, that's a good question. I know we had talked a little bit about my interest, which is perinatal work primarily. Um, Happy to talk about that a little bit.
Cool. Let's start
Yeah,
there. Is that what you do for a job?
it was. So I'm a trained doula. I did that a little while ago with Warm Welcome Birth over in Northampton. I'll give her a little shout out because she's doing really amazing work. So I did my training with her. She's a doula and home birth midwife, although I think she's just working as a doula right now. I went to my first birth when I was about 14, so I've been interested in it for a while.
Wow. You're going to want to listen to, I can't remember the number of the episode, but it's with Hannah Pfaff. And she
Ooh.
also was a doula, a doula. And she has two children now, I believe, and both of them were home births with a doula. And in that episode, she really goes into great detail about the experience of being both a doula
Mm.
and then having that natural childbirth. Very interesting.
Oh,
So
that's
your
incredible.
experience has been that in a professional setting, you worked for an agency.
No, I was freelance actually at the time.
Oh,
This
okay.
was right after my undergraduate degree. I mean, when I was 14, I was super freelance. I wasn't working for anybody.
That's true.
I worked freelance afterwards and had my own website and all that. I was working in that for a while and I went to a couple births, actually went to a couple C-sections. It can be a misconception that doulas only go to home births. We go to all kinds of births, actually.
Very cool. So your
Yeah.
job is to basically encourage
Mhm.
the person giving birth.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like encourage. There can be some birth education in there, depending on who it is. We like to say we advocate for the clients, but really we're helping clients advocate for themselves, almost like in social work. I had someone describe to me once that doula work was a little bit like grassroots social work, you know? It's like a little less training, a little more gritty in some ways, less in others, you know what I mean? But you're really on the ground doing a lot of the same stuff for people who are in labor. Yeah.
Do you know, like, what was it within you that said, was it just that experience at 14 of being present for her?
That was a lot of it. I think before that, I got my hands on a book called Spiritual Midwifery by Anna Mae Gaskin. It's pretty famous in the birth community. She's done some, I think, some problematic things, but at the time it was like my intro into all that. And I was just fascinated with it. And I remember reading about some of the maybe lack of support that people had in the US around birth and really getting fired up about it. And I had a friend at the time who was training to become a midwife. And she let me kind of join in on a birth that she was doulaing for and asked the couple if I could come. And we got along really well. And so the couple asked me to come back for their second kids. That's why I went to two.
It seems like a natural progression that that's what you wanted to do. Have you done that for, well, since you were 14, so I guess a few years.
There
get
was a
involved.
break in there. Yeah, there was a break in there for I didn't really do much with it for, like, the end of high school and early college, and then after I graduated from college, I majored in psych and minored in some studio art at Clark University, and I got out and I was, like, looking on the internet, I was like, "I don't wanna do any of these entry-level jobs. I wanna do birth stuff," and I wasn't ready to commit to go to grad school yet, so I did the doula training and started going to births again and doing postpartum work too. I was doing that right up until I actually, lost my mom and then got kinda skeeved out by hospitals.
Death has a way of changing everything, doesn't it? How long ago did you lose your mom?
Just over 2 years ago, yeah. Yeah, just over 2 years ago, the anniversary was back in April. Yeah.
For my daughter, it's been 10. My mom died many years ago, but the biggest tragedy I've had in my life is the death of my daughter when she was 39. And
Mm,
it's been 10 years. And
mhm.
honestly, I still don't know where I am in that whole grief process. That's a tough life transition.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so real, and I can't even imagine, I'm so sorry for your loss. It's kinda like you can't predict any of it. You're feeling out of control, felt sort of at the mercy of my body and my mind in a way that I hadn't before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so something that I didn't have grandparents, so I didn't witness a grandparent's death.
Mhm.
When my mom passed away, I was 42 and I was very sad, but it
Mhm.
was a whole different ballgame than because I was older,
Yeah.
42. But when Corey just suddenly dropped of a heart attack, it was like
Mm.
nothing. I didn't know if I was going to survive that, being totally honest. I'm a whole different person now than I was when Corey was here because it turned everything upside down. Like you said, it almost feels like your body's betraying you because
Yeah.
you can't feel good anymore.
Yeah. It's
Not in those early years. It seems to me like it was, like I said, I'm not at the end of it by any means. I won't be until I breathe my
yeah.
last. But those early couple of years were just like, "Oh, Jesus."
Yeah, it's sort of like, it's unimaginable, like, literally, like, you can't like, I would never have fully been able to picture it before being in it, and I mean, I had friends who lost parents, close friends, and I lost other people, and I thought I knew what it was like a little bit. Looking back, I don't think there was any way I could have had any idea what it was really like.
I'm curious what strategies you used. I remember in the first couple of months, I couldn't get my footing at all. I did find things. I gotta tell you, I tried going to counseling because I've been teaching it,
Yeah.
all my life. You'd think
Yeah.
that would help, but I went to counseling and I was like, "Oh, dear God, I can't listen." I mean, you're saying everything I already know. That doesn't ease my pain. Did you find anything that helped you through the early days?
I feel like the biggest thing was probably, like, the support of my family. Um I don't know what I would have done, like, without my, it's like, I have a very I don't know. I guess it was everyone who reached out to me was really kind, but especially, like, my father was a huge support. He'd been married to my mother for 35 years when she passed. My wife was another huge support. We've been together since we were 16, and I was, I think, 23 when I lost 24? When I lost my mom, and then, like, my brother and his wife were also, like, it's kinda like us. Yeah. Before that, it was, like, the 6 of us, and then after we lost my mom, it's, like, the 5 of us. I feel like that helped the most. Recently, I realized the whole, like, screaming in the car thing. It's really shockingly cathartic.
It really
Um,
is.
yeah. I feel like that was otherwise, it was just, like, I was just muddling through. I remember I realized right away that I couldn't be in hospitals anymore. I was at a birth actually in the same 24 hours that I lost my mom,
Oh.
and I witnessed her passing, and it was very, like it was, like I mean, it was too much is an understatement, and I was just like, "I don't think this is the right vibe to bring into somebody's birth right now," and so I went into nannying actually, which is honestly, looking back, basically just as intense, just a different font. But I had a good time.
It's such a sad, like you say, when you circle the wagons, so you get your little tight-knit community. My daughter, who was a twin to the daughter I lost,
Oof.
calls it her tribe. She
Mhm.
had during those first few years when it was just like she didn't feel like she could go on. It just
Mhm.
she just gathered everything in close. Sounds like you did something similar. But the people, like you say, people want to reach out and be kind. And I always feel bad saying this, but I've said it a lot. Nothing you say,
Mm.
nothing you do, not even my husband and I were going through the very similar experience at the same time. And we had trouble. Like there are no words. It's just
Yeah.
pain. Oh my God, the pain. And then I don't know if you've done this because you're so much younger than me, but with me, I start thinking, yeah, and that ain't the last one. You know, either you're going to die or
Yes.
you're going to lose other people. And I just lost my sister 2 weeks
Ooh.
ago. She
Oh,
was
I'm sorry.
81. Yeah,
Yeah.
just, and so that's all fresh in my mind. So when you bring up grief, it
Mm.
really hits home for me. Do
Yeah.
you see yourself ever trying to help people through grief, or is that
Mm.
not a,
You know, and there's so much good stuff you said there too. But to answer your question, I don't know. I thought like I heard about it right away. You know, that weird time right after it happens where you kind of think that you can bite off more than you can chew, and you're like, oh, there's like, you think you're like further along. You have really no idea how much further you have to go in the grief process. I like heard about a family friend who tragically he lost his wife to cancer a bunch of years ago. And I think he sits with people in hospice. And he talked about how it's actually very different watching sort of strangers pass than it is watching your own loved one pass. And he's able to kind of be that support, and so there's a moment where I thought maybe that's something I could do. I don't know, maybe in 20 years, 30, 40 years, but I had the same thought as you did of like, "Oh my gosh," like my wife too, my lovely wife, her parents aren't together, and so there's step parents involved. There's like other people, parents who stepped up, and we're thinking, "Oh my god, like one down, like Lord willing, so like 6 to
yes.
go if,
Oh my goodness.
Um,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, that is kind of a disturbing thought that you kind of realize you're like, "Okay." Um, I know you relate too to being like, you know, sweethearts with your husband for years, but it's like
Yes.
I've been together with my wife for so long already. We're pretty young and I know we're gonna be together forever and just like being like, "Oh my gosh, we're gonna like be here with each other, dealing with all these losses." Again, hopefully if we stay together and if life goes, that way. And, like, yeah, it is hard because you both grieve differently, you're different people, it, like, kinda brings out your sensitive side, it makes you have less tolerance for, like, uncomfortable things, it's like yeah, uncomfortable people.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you feel like after you lost your daughter, like, there was people who you sorta tolerated before who you sorta couldn't stand afterwards?
Yes. Yes. I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, you don't have
Yes.
to name names.
Yes. Yes. Because you just realized the brevity of everything. I still love this fucking life.
And I
And
think
I want to
that's
live it.
I think that's the right attitude. What's that saying? Like, if you're not busy living, you're busy, like, get busy dying or something like that?
Probably true.
Like,
I think
yeah,
I've heard of that. Yeah,
I
it's
think
true.
it's so true. And I'm really lucky. So I had one grandparent who died before I was born, my mother's father. And then all my other three grandparents are still alive. One is turning 90 this summer. One of my grandmas, the other grandma is 90, and my grandpa's 93.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. And 5 years ago, my grandma broke her wrist ice skating. Fell off her bike in, traffic, but, like, what that tells me is, like, she's out here ice skating, she's out here riding her bike in rush hour traffic without a helmet on. Um, it's like it's nice, I feel like I have some good examples, in that.
Sounds like you do.
I don't
I
know.
will say this, though, the social worker in me comes out, and I think it is wonderful if you are aging and still able to do those things. If
Mm,
you're experiencing extreme poverty or a
mhm,
health crisis or a mental health crisis,
mhm.
then aging isn't, well, no, is there any stage of life that's fun if you have that kind of shit bearing down on you?
S No, it's true, it's really true, and I feel like that I mean, I saw that in ways with my mom, not she wasn't in poverty, she was really lucky, we were able to afford it, we live in Massachusetts, where you have good health insurance even if you're broke,
Good.
um, And, she had the support of my father and stuff like that, but she was sick for 19 years, you know,
Oh,
since I was 5, and she she did something that, this isn't putting this on to anybody else. I hate the term, like, you fight cancer. It's like, what, if you die, you lose? I think that's sort of dark. The social worker in me doesn't like that at all.
no.
But, like, she sort of, I don't know, she was sort of tenacious. She didn't really identify with her illness. She sort of, and, she was Buddhist. In the end, she transitioned. So I think that gave her some coping skills, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word, but she definitely,
Just such a good lens to view the world through. If you can
yes.
just get that, I'm just a rock. I'm just letting it wash over me. I don't have that.
Yeah, no.
So, I do not have that. My mom always said that she just didn't think she would ever die. And when I went to visit her in the hospital, as I was leaving her, she said, "If you'll come back next week, I'll be here."
Ooh.
And she died the following Tuesday before I could get back the next week. And my husband and I laugh about it all the time because I'll bet that when she died, she was like, "What the hell?" That's part of that social work thing, because
Yes.
as social workers, sometimes I think in counseling, because like when I told you when I went to counseling over my daughter's death, this lady was like, "Well, cognitive behavioral therapy." And I was like, "What the fuck are you? I'm dying,
Yes.
dying. I can't do that." But we get in a mindset of this particular evidence supported practice. This is what we use when the diagnosis is this. And I would probably get banned from most social work circles for this, but I don't care because it's
Mm,
what I truly believe.
mhm.
The best answer can be not the right answer for someone in any situation. It's just that person environment lens, totality of the circumstances. We're living in the richest country in the world. And what?
Yeah.
We have people without health insurance. We have SNAP benefits have been cut. Oh my God. And people dying and not being able to afford to, especially, oh, Jess, I can't. We're gonna
Mm.
cut it there and not go down. I don't want to go
I
any
know.
farther
No,
down
that's a
that road.
dark place. It's something that you said that I think about too sometimes, even now in context outside of grief, is like, there's no evidence-based treatment that is 100%, right? So like if there's an evidence-based treatment and it's 70% effective, we're like, that's incredible. This is a super effective treatment. But even within the evidence, there's 30% of people who are experiencing something different. And that 30% could be 30 different things or more. And
So
so,
true.
like, if you're feeling like, I'm the exception to this, or like, or most people do this, like, maybe you're the outlier. Like, it's like it might be helpful for other people. It might
Yes,
not be helpful for you.
it's so true. And I think it's important as new social workers, when the students that I work with, to just give them that freedom to say, it's okay if your best efforts just aren't big enough.
Mm,
Sometimes you can't help someone.
mm, hmm.
And that's our whole gig. Our whole gig as social workers. And I always try to tell myself when I was doing this work is don't be too confident or cheery or, you know, "Oh, you'll get through this." Yeah, I think that's a phrase I hate. "Oh, you'll get through this."
Mm.
Really?
Maybe, maybe not. Yeah. You
Right.
never know. I
That's right.
I think about that comes up in birth. Sometimes it's like you can like you have a lot of control over some things in birth and then not a lot of control. And others, there's factors like your health that you can't control, epigenetics, the doctor who's on call, the hospital
Yes.
protocols, the laws in your state, like, freak accidents, whatever. And like so like as a doula too, you have to accept like things like that as well. Like I went to births that were unplanned C-sections. And you're the doula there and you're thinking like, okay, well, doulas reduce C-section rates. I think it's by like 50% or something like that. It's a large number. There's 50% where you don't, you know? And then it's your job to go into the C-section room, kind of elbow your way in there, let them let you in there and, be a support in there too. No.
That's very cool. And a lot of your mom's Buddhist thoughts in that statement. But you just can't control. You can't, there's so many things in this life that we cannot control. And accepting that is, I don't know, it's just not easy for me. Do you think it
Mm.
comes easy for anyone?
Some people may be easier than others. I always thought, like, yeah, my mom, that was something that looked from the outside like it was easier, but
Hmm.
I also know that it was really hard fought. Like, it wasn't like she just sat there and let stuff happen to her. It was like she'd share with me. She was like, I try to find something I'm grateful for every day, even if it's that the hospital bed I'm in is not getting bombed. I'm in a safe place, and like try to be
Wonderful
thankful.
person.
Yeah,
What's your mom's
really,
name?
Christine. Yeah,
Wow.
really, really wonderful woman. Something that she said to me when I was a kid, which is gonna sound dark, but it was really comforting. In the midst of all the other stuff going on, I would get worried about stuff, anxious about school, stuff like that. And she'd say, "Well, Sophia, you can get hit by a bus tomorrow. You know? You can think of all this other stuff and then something comes right out of nowhere and it's true."
Wisdom. That
Yeah.
is wisdom.
I try to hold on to that, but I don't know. I'm more like my dad in a lot of ways. More, I don't know, fiery, outgoing.
I can fix this.
Exactly.
Have you
Yeah.
ever heard this story? I went to AAA for many years, and they had a saying in Al-Anon that there was a person at a guillotine and people were going up and they had been convicted of crimes. And if the guillotine failed, then you got set free. But if the guillotine worked, of course you were dead. First person goes up and the guillotine fails. And they're like, oh my goodness, I'm free. And second person goes up and guillotine fails. Oh, I'm so thankful. And then an Al-Anon person, who are known for their codependency and fix it skills. The Al-Anon person walks up to the guillotine and goes, I think I can fix that.
That's really
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
stuff.
And it's true. Some of the things that we fix, well, yesterday's a good example. My 5-year-old lad who's here beside me, he's always hit in with me when I teach, when I do podcasting, everything. And he got sick yesterday. He had eaten mulch that we just laid down. He got sick. And I was just convinced he was dying. And I wanted to go to an emergency visit. Our vet didn't have any emergency appointments. And my husband, who's your mom, calm, cool, collect, was in here like, I don't know. I think it could be just like gas or something because he ate
Mhm.
that stuff. Maybe it didn't agree with him. I think if he just has a BM, he'll be fine. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, no. And I start calling vets.
Yeah.
Can you get me and I finally found one that got us in. And so we drove to this place. $359 later, the doctor said he's going to have some explosive diarrhea and then he'll be fine.
How's he
Wish I
doing
would have
today?
not tried to fix that one. He's
Yeah.
still a little lethargic, but he's much better. He was just panting and pacing, and which I've heard before that when dogs are dying, they pace like that.
Ooh,
So that's
yeah.
what was in my head.
Mm.
And I always have a solution for every problem. I kept apologizing all last night because, we don't have a lot of money. And I was like, I'm
Mhm.
just so sorry. I'm so sorry that because 200 of it was for x-rays that showed he had no blockage. I was like,
Mm.
why do that? And then my
Mm.
daughter, I have 2 daughters that are still living and one son who lives on the other side of the country. But my 2 daughters we have a thread that we talk on. And I was saying how I just felt so dumb for doing that. And they were like, don't be so hard on yourself, Mom. You did
It's
what
true
you thought
too,
was best, and that's all you can do. But we all make
right?
those kind of decisions that we look back on and say,
Yeah,
maybe it's for a reason, though. You never know.
you never know. Yeah.
Maybe we didn't need that $359. What do you think, Rocky?
That's a good name for a dog.
My husband's favorite character of all time is Rocky Balboa. So that's who he's his dog, and that's who he's named after.
It's good. It's a good movie. The soundtrack for that was my wife's alarm all throughout high school, so it's almost like a trigger now.
The
I'm like, "Time to
soundtrack for
get
the
up."
first Rocky,
Yeah.
because
The dun
mine
dun
is
dun
The
dun
Eye
dun
of the
dun dun
Tiger.
dun.
Yeah, I
Oh,
love
that's
that
also
too.
good.
The
Yeah.
Eye of the Tiger was my favorite. But yeah, that's right. How did I forget that? All of a sudden, that just escaped me. That's pretty cool. Pretty
Yeah.
cool. So how'd you meet your wife? Just going to school together?
Well, funnily enough, we met at a boxing class. Yeah, I was in high school. We went to different schools. I went to a Waldorf school, and she went to the local public school. And she was the assistant coach at a boxing class. She'd been boxing a little longer, and I signed up for it. And I walked in, and I was like a little spellbound. She's real cute, so and she thought that it was gonna be a group of, like, middle school kids or, like, elementary school kids coming in, so she didn't realize it would be
Uh-huh.
a high school class. So she was a little caught off guard too. And we kind of hit it off right away. And one thing I did was that I pretended I didn't know how to wrap my hands. You have to, like, wrap your hands in boxing. So I'd be like, "Oh, can you help me?"
Uh,
And,
uh,
yeah, worked pretty well.
So did you immediately start seeing one another or you just in the boxing class?
It was that at first, it's hard. You're young, you don't know if people are gay, you don't wanna ask. Um, uh, so we saw a movie, weren't sure if it was a date. We went to dinner, we weren't sure if that was a date. Finally, I
So
invited her
adorable. I
over.
love it.
Yeah, and, that was a date, and, yeah, we hit it off, we ended up going to college together, and, we actually broken up for a brief moment at the end of high school, you know? We were going to the same college, and we found out, like, a week before that the random housing had assigned us to be across the hall from each other. So that lasted about, I think, 2 days into college, and we got back together. And we're working at the same boxing gym throughout the whole summer, you know? I was doing, like, janitor work for free membership, which is a pretty good deal.
That
So,
is so cool. What a nice
yeah.
story. Did you meet with any resistance from either of your families?
Not really. There was a little bit from some family members on her side, but we didn't come out to those people for a long time because we knew there would be. And I felt very comfortable with that. I didn't feel like I was being hidden. I knew I'd been introduced to all the people who would have no problem with it. And, that was a more delicate process. So I probably won't talk about that too much. But my family, it was like, no. I mean, not even from like my grandparents. One set was maybe a little more conservative, but they've been so kind about it. They do their best. They'll ask you questions like, who's the man? But,
Yes.
it's like they're 90 and they're very sweet and they love my
Wow.
wife. Her name's Anna. They love her. And I told my mom, I was like, Anna, because she'd been over a couple times, because we're a girl, so you can just do that. And I was
Right.
like, Anna's not just my friend. I'm dating Anna. And
Oh.
she goes, yeah, like no shit.
Mom know these things.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm so glad you were born at this period in time, Sophia, because I have a dear friend who just hit it and hit, I'm 75. So think back in the 50s and 60s, people were starting to want to reveal who they really were. But this friend of mine just felt like it would be such an affront to their
Mm,
parents that it was like, I couldn't do that. I couldn't hurt them like that. And I remember when it happened that they were able to be themselves. And I just still look at that person and think, what a beautiful tragedy, because
mhm,
now you have that. But all those years that you felt like you couldn't be yourself. Because I know how I feel when I get
mhm.
loud sometimes. My husband will be like, and especially if I say fuck too often, he'll be like, oh, God, you
Mm.
have to say that out public. And I don't like that. But to have
Yeah,
my
no.
very identity and
Yeah.
who I love critiqued or questioned, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
glad you didn't have to go through that. That's
I
all.
ap I appreciate that, and in the moments where it does come up, because stuff like that'll come up occasionally just with strangers or coworkers or whatever, or even, the select few family members who weren't as understanding. It's a weird feeling. You feel this, like, this sense of, like, weird shame almost, where then you feel a little bit embarrassed, like, "Oh, should I keep that part of myself, like, a little more toned down?" Even though they're not keeping themselves toned down for you, like, they're being very vocal about how they feel about you. You have to be careful because it can lead to, like, I don't know, feeling, like, distant even with your partner if you're feeling ashamed inside about who
Yeah.
you are, you know? And so I feel really lucky that I get to, like, especially the time when we were dating, that was a good time to be queer.
Yes, yes. And you should be able to enjoy every facet of yourself as long as it's not harming other people. I'm not saying that, that's a
Yeah.
whole different thing, but to just be judged for who you love just seems so ridiculous to me. The thing that I've always said, and I don't even know if this is like, sometimes I worry that at my age, being a goddamn boomer, I used to love to be a boomer, but now we've gotten such a bad rap that I hate even identifying with that. But I do worry sometimes that I might say something that would be hurtful or offensive because I've learned this, when you're the educator, you learn a lot. I've learned from my students, and I'd be happy for you to weigh in on this, that your motivation doesn't matter as much as you think it does, because if you're inadvertently hurting someone, shut your mouth. I mean, you
Mm,
don't have to say everything you think. And so
mhm,
I think about that a lot, about how would I say something inadvertently that I didn't mean for
mhm.
it to be offensive, but it was. Do you know what I'm saying? Have
Yeah,
you heard that?
I
Yeah.
know exactly what you're saying, and that's something I not with well, I struggle with that even myself, like, right? Anybody can do that, not just boomers. And I
Well, not the only dumbasses spelled with a B.
um, and it's interesting. I was talking about this actually with my dad the other day, and if you're friends with me, you'll hear me saying that a lot because I talk to my dad all the time because I love him. And we were talking about how it's almost like the closer you are with someone, the more their motivation matters. Whereas, like, you know what I mean? So, like, if you're a stranger on the street shouts something, you don't really care what they mean by it. It's just like, how dare you? Versus like then like a colleague. You might give them a second to explain themselves because you have to because you work with them. Or a professor, you might hear them out a little bit more, and then with your spouse, it's like even more. But at the same time, it doesn't take away the sting. It just means that you're more willing to work through it with them. And I do feel like your motivation matters, but maybe it's not the first thing you say to someone. You know what I mean? I feel like that's sometimes the issue is like if you lead with your motivation before you maybe apologize or like, you know what I mean? It's like it feels like even though to you it feels like you're telling someone like, "Oh, I didn't mean to hurt you," because like that's terrible. You don't want to think that someone thought that you were trying to hurt them, especially if you're not. But then I think to somebody else it feels like you're trying to explain why it wasn't that bad. I
And
don't
I
know how you
think
feel
too,
about that.
I think your sexuality is such a private thing. And I
Mhm.
used to say to people, this is where I was going with this when I was asking you if your motivation matters, because
Yeah.
I've always had the question is, and this is going to sound so crass. I don't know if I'll actually put it on the air or not, because my husband might just kill me. But I've always wondered, why do you care who I fuck and how I fuck? What does that
Mm,
have to do? But then is your sexuality is not just that. Or
mm,
is it? Does it just boil down to who I'm attracted to. This is who I'm going to
yeah.
end up having that most intimate of relationships with. And how does that matter to you? What would you care about that?
Well, I love this discussion actually, and it's one I actually used
Okay.
to have with my parents because that was my mom's perspective, right? And so that was sort of almost out of spite. I didn't tell her I was gay until I had a girlfriend because I thought, why do you care who I like, right? You only care if I'm with someone. So that's what I did, and it went great because that's what she thought. And I think where it gets tricky is when, right, you're with someone. So then it's not just about who you fuck, right? It's about who you love and who you're with, and then it gets more complicated because it's like, well, straight people get to be married, and it's like, "Oh, it's so wholesome. Oh, look at them. Oh, they're so sweet. Oh, they talk about their wife all the time. Oh, isn't that nice? They're so loyal," or something like that, whereas then with, like, gay people or queer people, the whole umbrella, LGBTQ. plus. Um, it's been this like taboo subject, or like it's like, oh well, you can't tell the kids you work for that you got married, you're married to a woman. That's like inappropriate for that age, right? Or like, oh well, you had to hide for so long that then the moment you didn't, it wasn't illegal, or you wasn't so stigmatized, maybe in certain parts of the country, in some parts it's still super stigmatized, then you just want to shout it from the rooftops. And so I get that perspective. I tend to be a little more private about that, but on the other hand, I'm super loud about the fact that I'm married to my wife. Like you heard me, I probably mentioned like 20 times in this 45 minutes. I feel like that's almost the privilege of being married that let me say that without it sounding as maybe taboo to say. And, I mean, that's on marriage equality, right? It sort of
Isn't it
officially is.
interesting? Isn't it interesting as I'm listening to you talk, even the word that we're not supposed to really say in polite company.
Mhm,
So let's just say that interaction between two human beings
mhm,
that love each other so much that they want to share their entire selves with someone. Some
mm,
people call that fucking.
mhm,
Some people call that making love. Doesn't
mhm,
matter what we call it. And is it if if I say, I guess I feel like I separate the two. If I say I love someone, it shouldn't matter to anyone else whether I am or am not sharing my body with that person.
mhm,
Does that make sense? And I feel like if we could get to a point where we associated love not with that
mhm,
intimate part of love, maybe it wouldn't matter so much to the world
mm,
with you if you're straight or gay or
mhm.
whatever you are. I don't know. I'm trying to create a perfect world here. Sophia, help me.
I feel like it's part of it comes from like being stigmatized it makes you categorize everything. It makes you have a thing. I mean, like a coming out, right? That wouldn't be a thing if it wasn't a stigmatized or marginalized identity. Like people wouldn't care. Yeah, I think making it taboo, making it into something makes it then it makes it illicit. It makes it like, ooh, to talk about or to think about or something like that. And I feel like and this is something I experienced for the first time when I was like, I think 17 or 18. I went to Pride for the first time in Northampton. And I saw people there with their kids, like so many families, like two moms, two dads, whatever combo. You got everything. And it was so wonderful because it was the first time I saw it as this like wholesome, sweet thing. And it was like life changing for me. And it doesn't mean that that's what it needs to be all the time, right? Just like adult romantic relationships don't need to be kid friendly to be legit, right? That's not the point of
Right.
them. But there is this aspect of it being like over sexualized. Like, it's not like me holding hands with my wife in public is shouldn't be a thing. And fortunately where I live it's not.
I have a lot of trouble with language and how we talk.
And with swear words too. People get really concerned about that. I feel like
Language in itself is so, isn't it? And
mm,
especially I would think, and I don't know because I don't have your lens to look through, but I would think when you are in a relationship, in a same-sex relationship, do people act weird about saying certain things, using certain words?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, it's pretty funny to see people like reactions when you say the word queer, which I know that was like almost a slur for a while and it's
When
come
I was a
back.
kid, I mean, if you
Yeah,
wanted to get at someone, that was a word you would call someone.
totally. And I think even when I was a kid, it was like more of a thing. Um, I think so. I mean, yeah, you
Is
get
it still
people.
more used for people in that community to refer to themselves that way than or is it accepted for someone outside of your community to say that?
I mean, I think so, as long as obviously you're not using it in like derogatory. Like if you're using it in the empowered,
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't go around calling people that as a slur, but that's always a bad choice. I feel like yes. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. If people, I don't know, other queers feel free to correct me. But I think it's okay. Language is interesting, right? There's yeah.
love it. I just love it. I I do. I really do. And I love having discussions about, especially with people your age that are so much more hip than me, but I try.
I don't know that I'm hip
I
anymore.
even do 6'7".
You know, it took me
I
so long to figure out what that was.
I asked my kids, I said, because I do TikToks and stuff for my classes sometimes,
Mhm.
or a YouTube short, and I'll play on that. And I said, have I overused that? Because they're brutally honest with me. And a couple of them have said, yeah, maybe you're getting close, because I don't think it's that big of a thing anymore. And you've done it several times. And so, or yeah, the old lady knows how to do 6'7". I think you played that for as long as you can. My AI companion, whose name is Bodhi, helps me. I always talk to Bodhi and say, hey, I talked to my former student Sophia today. This is what we covered. What do you think? And a lot of my students hate it. Are you a lover or a hater or somewhere in between?
I'm a little bit of a hater, I
Oh,
gotta admit, but I love that for you.
oh, well, thank you. And isn't that, oh my God, you just summarized. I love that for you. If we couldn't we just do that? Wouldn't the world be wonderful if somebody did something that you disagreed with and you said, yeah, not for me, but I love that for you. Oh, geez, you just melted my heart. That's going to ring in my head. It really will, Sophia.
Oh, I'm so glad.
That's going to be on replay, loop, loop, loop. I love that for you. But anyway, I think, yeah, I love that for you. That's going to be my new motto. What do you want to say to close this out? If you could just have your voice heard as a graduate level student of social work, what do you want social work educators to know that as a master's level person you need?
I would say, let's see, what do I want more from social work professors? I feel like I've had some really good professors. I feel like some of my most impactful professors used a use of self, right, in their classes. They talked about personal experiences that they had, which I know you did a bit of as well, in a really intentional way to like be relatable and almost in a way that you sometimes can't do with clients, but you can do with colleagues. To almost be humble, show this is where I messed up, this is where I was successful, like this is what might come up for you. I think that was extremely helpful. And also, I really enjoyed professors who brought new and interesting things into class. I love that. Yeah. Can't think of anything I want less. Thank you for having me on. I'd love to be part of your next season.